Alright, what's up, guys? So, straight into a deck profile. Who have we got today?
So yeah, my name's James Hamill. I'm from New Zealand, and I went undefeated at the Hamilton Regionals at Card Merchant Hamilton with Brandon Despia.
Wow, my guy, undefeated. That's flipping insane. Good job, bro. So, what was how did the deck feel for you? Is it do you definitely think it's the best
Yeah,
deck?
the deck's like it's really fluid. Like it just feels like such a good deck. Like it's very consistent. It's got a lot of draw power. You always have a lot of cards in your hand. You always have access to your cards. Like the layered disruption's always good. Like lots of just it's got like everything you would want in a deck. Really.
Yeah, I definitely think it's got like the best engine out of all the decks at the moment, which is
Yeah,
quite
hundred
solid.
percent. Like
Cool. Well, awesome, James. Let's go straight into that profile, man.
cool, cool. So of course the MVP, we got the triple Aluba, Jester Despia. So just grab your Branded Fusion. Grab like if you already have it, grab Branded Lost, Branded Red. This is your main searcher. He's your boy, man. You start him off and he gets your combos going.
Oh,
Like
awesome.
when you see him, it's pretty good. You can revive him from the grave if your fusion dies. So that can come up to just like block an attack or something. Yeah, it does come up quite a bit, so some people forget about that effect, but yeah, it's pretty clutch.
Okay.
The other Despia monsters, we got the Adlib, for the Branded and Red combo. Bring back your Mirror Jade. It does have an effect to boost attack, but that never really came up. I never really summoned him. Just used it for the revive on the Mirror Jade, which is always good.
Okay.
One Dramaturge, so this card actually comes up like quite a bit. So if you fusion summon with this, you can bring it back. It's from the hand or graveyard and it's banished. Banished and or sent to the grave. You can bring it back, and when a card is summoned from the extra deck, basically you can negate any monster effect. So this came up against like a DDD player I versed, and he summoned something, and then I just like negated it, and he's like, oh.
Ooh.
And that was pretty good. And then double Despia Tragedy, this card's insane to send off Branded Fusion. He's your number one go-to on Branded Fusion. Send him, get to add the ad lib or Dramaturge. Later on in the game, you can add another Aluba when you're using the Branded and Red combo on their turn. One copy of Shrouded Dragon, Albion. He allows you to go with a Merc combo. So if anyone's seen Pax List, this is pretty similar. You can banish Merc off a lure, add this guy, and then send the trap to get your Merc back, so he kind of enables those kind of combos. You can also just send Branded Opening to have that kind of protection. And he's basically just an upstart goblin as well.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a level 8 as well, so you can send him to make Titanic Lad to get that extra damage in.
Oh, lovely.
Triple Albaz, just a standard, send it off Branded Fusion basically. It's the main boy. The fusion, the super poly effect does come up. I usually summon them during the end phase with something like Titanic Lad or Brigand to just fusion summon one of their random cards. They don't see it coming. It's pretty funny as well. So Albaz is just a solid card. Triple Mercuria. So Mercuria has two great effects. One of them being a monster negate if you have a full and a Albaz fusion. So he's basically just like a hand trap. He's searchable off a couple of cards like Brigand. Because he is a Tri Brigade as well. He can also be searched off Branded Lost because he mentions Fallen of Albaz. And when he gets banished by any means, you can add any monster to the list Fallen of Albaz or Albaz himself. So he's like the best card to banish off a lure because you banish him off a lure and you just get your plus back. You get the Albion. You send the Shrouded Dragon. Banish, send Branded Banishment. Add this guy back. So you've just gone like +3.
Wow.
Or like +2, +3 off like one allure. Pretty good. One Spriggan's Kit. It's pretty decent. It's like a slightly worse version of Aluba, but you can put one card back from your hand. It could be like a brick or something that you want in your deck. As well, it can be special summoned for free just by having a fusion that mentions Fallen of Albaz. And it can be added off Branded Loss and Merc, so it comes up sometimes, but not the most impactful card, but definitely has its uses. We have 3 Agent Chain for the Frightfur package. You discard this off Branded Opening or Lubellion and just get Patchwork and get a plus. Patchwork's a +1 in its own. Like you can basically turn your costs into a plus with this card. It's insane. And then the last monster in the deck, it's the one Fairy Tale Snow. It's your light target to send to make Albion.
Yeah.
And Snow's a broken card. Banish 7, summon it back. Book a Moon something. You can't really go wrong with that. Moving on to the spells. Just clear these off here. Moving on to the spells, quite a few. We have the double Branded and Red first. this card is just like insane. You can summon quick play to fusion summon on their turn basically, or your turn as well. The card can't attack, but if you summon something like Lubellion or Albion on your turn, you can just fusion again, and on their turn you use it to make Chimera.
Yeah.
And like when you have branded Lost and branded in red, you can basically just add 4 cards because you'll summon you'll use the branded in red to add back the Tragedy, and then you'll just fusion summon Chimera with usually a Mirror Jade on your field, the Adlib you searched the turn before, and the Tragedy you just added back. Chimera will draw you 2, Tragedy will add you 1, Lost will add you 1, as well as the Adlib summoning back your Mirror Jade to use it again. So there were times where I was able to get 2 banishes off Mirror Jade in 1 turn just because of this card.
Wow.
So very, very solid. Main starter, another main starter is Branded Opening. Branded Opening plus Edge of Chain is really nice. Summon Aluba for free, and then you chain block the Aluba with the chain. So there's no chance it's going to get like, it can get Imperm or Valid, but it won't be able to get like, Gammed or Ashed or whatever, which is pretty good. Always do it in the draw phase, just in case they've got that draw in Lockbird.
Yeah.
Best spell in the deck for sure. Triple Branded Fusion.
The big boy.
You draw this, you're probably winning as long as it doesn't get Ashed. Very painful when that happens, but you just send Albaz and Tragedy as your starting play to make Lubellion. A lot of people are pretty familiar with the combo. I'll go through it a bit when we get to the fusions. Next is Double Branded Lost. Now most people only play 1. I decided to play 2 Lost over 1 Lost and 1 Theater, just because I feel like Lost usually is more impactful than Theater, and the times where I saw Theater and would rather have seen Lost has been pretty decent in the past. So I just thought chucking in a second Lost, if it comes up and they're not expecting another one, it can be pretty good, because being able to for them to not be able to respond to any of your fusion summons is really good. It's just insane, because you just get guaranteed to use all your effects, plus it adds a card on your turn when you fusion summon, and if you fusion summon on their turn, it adds a card. You can add Mercuria, which is a negate as well, so that's always useful. Triple Allure, it's basically just a pot of greed in this deck, because you can banish Merc or something, or Tragedy, to just get that resource back. So the amount of times I've allured into Super Poly or cards like that have been really good. So triple Allure is always it's always good to see. It's not once per turn, so if you allure into allure, you can just keep drawing cards. Most frustrating card in the deck for sure, the 3 Super Poly. This card is, I love it as much as I hate it, because the amount of times you got Super Polyed is probably about the same amount of times I Super Polyed them. The MVP moment for this card is when I was versing Sword Soul in round 5 of Swiss, and he ended up having Chi Zhao and Vishuda on the field. And I had an Aluba, so I just fusion summoned Proskinian with both of his cards, and then
wow.
Alright. And I think I summoned back his Chi Zhao from the grave. Because if I actually had a Mirror Jade in the graveyard, some people don't realize, but Mirror Jade's actually a worm. So if you have Mirror Jade in the grave and you yoink their Chi Zhao, you could actually use Chi Zhao to negate it by banishing that Mirror Jade. Which is pretty funny, because some people think, oh, Mirror Jade, the Ice Jet Dragon, or whatever it's called. Oh, it's not a dragon, it's a worm. Come on. The Called by the Grave, just to stop hand traps, and also to stop their Brandon and Red. It's pretty funny. They're like, oh yeah, Brandon and Red target Adlib, chain Called by, banish the Adlib, and then no more Brandon and Red for you. The 3 Patchwork, adds your Poly and your chain, just a +1 really, and you can turn that chain into another Patchwork by discarding it with Lubellion or whatever. So it's always good to see. Sometimes if you have a pretty bad hand, and you draw you have this and any Despia or something, you can just still fusion, so you can still make something. So it is pretty good. And then the double polymerization, just to search off that. It comes up, if it's in the graveyard, Chimera can't be targeted, so it's pretty useful for that too. And then the final card in the deck of 42 is the Branded Sword. It does have an effect to summon tokens, which I never used. If I ever hard drew this card, I would always just discard it for Lubellion or whatever, just because the banish effect to add a banished card that mentions Fallen of Albaz or Albaz himself is always pretty good, because you can add back a Merc and just get another negate for free.
Makes sense.
So yeah, that's the main deck, 42 cards.
42. And how did you feel? Do you feel consistent?
Yeah, I felt like it worked out pretty well. There wasn't a whole lot of times I bricked. The only time I bricked the whole tournament was game 2 against Sword Soul after I won game 1. and I versed a Sword Soul. There was a 3v3 the day before, and I versed the same Sword Soul player. And he just anti-spelled me, and I lost the game because of it.
Oh,
He anti-spelled me in game 3.
Yeah.
So I just like was worried, he's playing like triple anti-spell and stuff. So I started on my back row removal, and my opening hand was like Twin Twisters, Cosmic Poly, the Trap, and like some other card. So it was pretty unplayable. That was like the only time I bricked. And yeah, apart from that, it's pretty good. Like even if you just see Branded Fusion alone, it's still like pretty strong. So there's the main deck. Moving on to the extra, it's pretty standard for this kind of deck. Double Masquerade, just like burn them a billion times. Against a DDD player in game 3, I summoned 2 of these. So it was just like, this is kind of awkward. He had like 600 life left, and I just like went my turn, blew his board and won or something. So it was pretty funny. Like getting 2 of these out is absolutely tragic for the opponent. And the other funny thing is that like I big brained my opponent because he wiped my board, right? He forced out my Mirror Jade early. When I had Branded and Red set, but he didn't realize I had this in the grave. And so what happened was that I activated Branded and Red, and he's like, okay, what is he going to summon? But then I chained this, so it summoned first, and then I could use this to make Chimera.
Oh, wow. Huge.
So basically, I just tricked him into thinking that I was Branded Redding for 2, but then I just chained this, and he's like, oh, he can make Chimera now. So that's like a good thing about this, because like a lot of people just forget that it can just summon itself back for free. So yeah, it's going to get banished when it leaves the field anyway, so Branded and Redding, it's always fine. Then for the Despia fusions, I guess this is kind of a Despia fusion, but we got the one Quateras. This card's really strong against Sword Soul, because if you open a Luba plus Super Poly, you can summon a Luba. If they cheese out negate, you change Super Poly and make this guy, and then you just activate its effect to make his Baron de Fleur 0. And then if he negates it with the Baron de Fleur, when it dies, you can just summon Albaz and infusion the Fleur into a Mirror Jade. So it's like, it just out Sword Soul board no matter how you look at it.
Wow.
The Sword Soul player probably just shouldn't negate it with Baron and just let you beat it over, because I feel like this on the board isn't as good as just getting a free Mirror Jade. But either way, you're like popping off with Branded Fusion, because Aluba probably resolved, because Super Poly dodges the Chi Shao negate. So this card's pretty good. Make all their take 0 as well is pretty strong. Just beat over like big boards. Proskinian only came up once in when I mentioned before against that Sword Soul player, but it's pretty strong. Light and Dark plus a Despia, 3200 attack and defense, and it can bring back any card or banish. It can banish or bring back any Fusion exceeds Link or Synchro from their grave. So you can either just banish something. If they send Albion on that turn, you can just banish it, or you can just summon something back. So it's pretty strong. Like this card doesn't come up a lot, and a lot of people don't really know it. But it is very good. And if it destroys monster by battle, you can inflict damage equal to that card's attack. So because it's such a big card, you just beat over their biggest card and burn them for heaps. So that's usually, it can close out games as well. Doesn't come up a whole lot, but when it does, it's pretty good. 2 of the Albion, the Branded Dragon. So this guy is like basically your go-to send-off Mirror Jade, because he sets your Branded spell or trap in the end phase. So you can set Branded in red or get a Branded infusion for the next turn. It can also add it to the hand as well. And if you actually summon him, you can fusion summon by banishing the cards from your hand, field, or grave. So in one game, I actually just used this guy to summon Titaniclad, and it was game. Because Titaniclad, he gains attack equal to the levels of the cards you use for a summon. So it can close out games. For the like Albaz kind of fusions, we got one Brigand. Sometimes you summon him, he uses a level 8 and a Fallen of Albaz. He makes all your other cards untargetable by monster effects, so it can be pretty good, just like make everything untargetable by monster effects. And if he's into the graveyard, that the end phase, you can either summon or add Albaz or a Tri-Brigade. So usually you just add a Merc to get a free negate. Titanic kind of similar. He's summoned by using a 2500 attack monster and Albaz, and he gains attack equal to the levels of the monsters used for the fusion summon. So he's good for like, closing out games, just getting a bit of damage off. As well, he's unaffected by any special summon from the extra deck cards for the turn he summons. So, he can't be Mirror Jaded or whatever. So sometimes you just summon him, crash over their Mirror Jade, they like can't banish him because he's unaffected. And then even in the end phase when Mirror Jade wipes the board, he just doesn't die because Mirror Jade, he's unaffected by this. Maybe not actually, because it was sent to the graveyard. Not too sure about that last part. It never came up, but yeah. Either way, it's like pretty good. Otherwise, he'll just summon Albaz usually because he can also add a Dogmatica, but I don't play any Dogmaticas. So usually just for the Albaz. Best extra deck monster, Mirror Jade.
Yeah.
You know, just send something and banish something. Non-targeting, quick effect. You can do it twice in a turn if you use Adlib, as I explained before. And if he leaves the field by your opponent's card, you can basically just destroy all their monsters in the end phase. So even if they kill it, it's still helpful. Not much really else to say about him. Pretty strong card. And then Lubellion, 2 of these. Discard 1 to fusion summon by returning the cards from the field deck or banish back to their deck or extra deck or whatever. So even if they pop him or banish him before it resolves, you can still shuffle it back. So kind of funny. There was one game where I actually activated Lubellion and then chained my Super Poly and used the Lubellion and one of their cards to make something. And then Lubellion still resolved, shuffling himself back.
Oh wow!
So you can basically use this for 2 materials, which is pretty insane. Like you can just make the most out of this as like double material or something. Other fusion this is kind of the Super Poly target.
Yeah.
The Prediplan Draco something. Yeah. 1 dark and a fusion. And he can basically quick effect negate something by putting a Prediplan counter on it. So, you know, if they just like have 2 random darks, you just Super Poly them. Comes up quite a bit against the mirror or against like any dark centered deck. Like that DDD player, I fusioned this against him in one of the games. It's pretty good as well. And the final card is your Guardian Chimera. 2 copies. You know, he's 3300 attack and defense, can't be targeted while Poly's in the grave. And if he summons, you can basically draw cards equal to the number of cards you use from your hand, and pop cards equal to the number of cards used from the field. So usually it'll be a draw 2, pop 1. Against an Eldritch player, I actually just popped 2. And it was funny because I had Branded Lost, so he couldn't respond with any of his traps.
Oh gosh.
And in game, I won game 1, but in game 1 I actually got Storming Mirror Forced when I had 4 fusions on the field.
Wow.
Luckily he didn't have enough to win, and I had enough to come back. But in game 2, he had 4 set, and the 2 cards I sniped with this were both Storming Mirror Forced. So that was pretty funny.
Wow.
That was a pretty cool moment. Moving on to the side deck here. So we got triple Ash Blossom. It's just amazing in the mirror match. If you can negate Branded Fusion, then they're probably just turn end or something. Best case scenario for them is they have like Poly with something and can make Masquerade, but usually it just stops their Branded Fusion. So it's pretty good. And then also for the mirror and just in general, I guess, is triple Crossout. So you can basically negate anything they use. You could. A funny like tech with this is like you can, if you have Super Poly, or even if you don't and you suspect they could have Super Poly, you just do this at the start of your turn and call Super Poly, and then chain your Super Poly to it. So like basically you won't get Super Poly. It didn't come up, but like that's just kind of a tech for this. So it can counter Super Poly if you preemptively do it. It came in clutch a couple times. Versing a Sword Soul player, I knew he was going to potentially Ash me. So I started in 3 of these and 1 Ash, and then my D barrier as well. And then, sure enough, my Branded Fusion got hit by an Ash, and I chained the Crossout and negated it. So that was pretty good. The 1 D barrier, it's mostly just for the Crossout.
Yeah.
But, hey, if you draw it against like Sword Soul or whatever, or Branded, comes in clutch, I guess. That never happened, but like just in case. And also to counter this card as well is your Red Reboot, just because like you don't want to get hit by a D barrier. It's pretty bad. The rest of the side deck is the triple Cosmic. Back row removal is always good. Like there's a lot of Eldritch running around, and you want to stop things like Anti-Spell, double Twin as well for that kind of stuff. Because things like Anti-Spell will just like ruin your day. You won't be able to do anything. Yeah. And then the final 2 cards is just a Necro Adventure in the Zombie World. Primarily for Flunder. Like there was a time where I actually sided this against one of the Sword Soul dudes I versed, and he couldn't make Chi Xiao, so he just had to do some weird line, and I had like enough to beat him basically after that.
Cool, solid.
So that's the whole list. 42 in the main. Pretty standard, A lot of people using this variation. I guess I'll quickly go through the matchup. So it was 6 rounds of Swiss. Round 1 was against the mirror match. It was 2-0. Pretty, I versed this guy at 3v3 yesterday as well, round 1, which is kind of funny. So yeah, then it was Sword Soul, which was a 2-1. Phantom Knights, which was also a 2-1. He actually scythe locked me in game 2.
Oh gosh.
He hard made DPE by using the Predaplant engine, so that was kind of cool to see. But yeah, game 3 I was able to close it out. Round 4 was against Elderlich, which was a 2-0. That was a pretty chill game. Pretty funny when I got Storming for 4. It became like kind of a meme, but we still pulled it out, so that was pretty good. 5 was against Sword Soul. This was like probably one of the most difficult games. It was a 2-1. Yeah, when I super polyed him for 2 with the Proskenian, that was pretty much that closed out that one. And then the final round was against DDD, which was also 2-1. I was really worried, like, going into that match, just because I never versed, like, DDD, like, current DDD, I guess. I never had versed it, so I was kind of worried, because everyone's like, oh, you know, it's pretty good, and, like, you know, they can stop you from fusion summoning more than once. And the guy was, like, pretty confident that his deck was good against Despia. So, you know, I was, like, a little bit nervous, but we managed to win that one as well.
Awesome job, dude.
Yeah, so... and then, you know, I secured the regional win, and, you know, we got my playmat. This was actually my second one. I then top 8 another regionals with Flunder, but I traded the first mat for a Flunder mat, which was cool. And I finally got the deck box. It's not right here, but I've always wanted one of those regional deck boxes, so that was pretty cool as well.
Yo, this is really awesome, James. This is really, really solid. I really like your deck choice as well. I think even with the standard list you've shown definitely a high deck knowledge, which is definitely why you managed to take that top spot. But yeah, I'm sure we're going to be seeing you again, bro. So yeah, really good job.
We got the state champs coming up in 3 weeks.
Oh, exciting!
So
man.
That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I believe that there's an Oceanic Championship in New Zealand as well. So
okay.
That'll be a pretty big event.
So definitely, do you think you're like? Well, actually, let me not bait out what you might be playing in the future. But I'll just say we'll see what you're playing.
It's chill, like, you know, like Despia is pretty good, and it would be the solid choice to play.
Okay.
Like, I might make a couple of minor adjustments here and there. You know, there's a few new cards. I would also like to mention that Dimension Force was delayed in New Zealand, so we have only received it as of yesterday. So as of Wednesday the 25th is when we received defo. So that's why I didn't there was none not the new trap or the new fusion. Nothing new from defo was like in this event. So this was a pre-defo tournament, just because, you know, we got it delayed. This Albaz deck was like 3 weeks late as well, so that's kind of funny.
Oh wow,
but,
okay then.
Yeah, so you know, possibly add some of those new cards in. I still do think Flunderies is a good deck, so
yeah,
I might potentially be looking at touching up that for the current format and potentially using it. You know, there is only one major card being this combo, which does stop it, but you know, one back row removal will remove the field spell, and you should be good.
Yeah.
So that's also another deck I could see playing. Apart from that, like, you know, Despia is just very solid, and for this current format, I do think it is the front runner. But there are a lot of wild cards like Super Poly, where just like a well-timed Super Poly would just ruin your day.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, definitely, it's definitely the best deck of the format, and it's showing. That's why there's so many results.
No doubt. Everyone agrees with it.
Well, have you got any shout-outs for anyone, James?
Any shout-outs? Let me have a think about that. Because, yeah, so, like, my last tournament, I did borrow some cards off people, but these are all mine. Just except for these, I borrowed them off my mate Avikash, so, yeah, thanks Avikash for lending me these, because I haven't gotten around to getting them.
Cool.
I guess just shout out to Card Merchant Hamilton, which was the store that ran the event, and shout out to Wilson, who is the store owner and tournament organizer. You know, great job organizing this event. Yeah, shout out to the judges from the event as well, and Team Chaos, which is our kind of our team.
Solid.
Yeah, so.
Right.
That's kind of all for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for that, James. So yeah, awesome profile, and yeah, like I said, fingers crossed we'll be seeing you soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Chat soon. Later on.